Welcome back to Trojan Sports Now. We have a very special guest this week, the new man in charge of Trojan Athletics, John Hartwell. Thank you for joining us here today.
Good to be with you. Glad to be here in Troy and be on board.
Now, you have really just started, so this is a new time for you, and I'm sure they've kept you busy over there. So what has it been like so far?
Well, it's been great. It has been a lot, literally in a day and a half or almost 2 days on the job now, but really excited to get started. You know, it's been about 2.5 weeks since I was named the AD in the press conference, and that 2-week period in between, I've had so many things going through my head, things that I want to get started on. So it's nice to finally get here and get the sleeves rolled up and get started.
Now, you're new to the university as an employee, but you're familiar with Troy, having grown up in Alabama from Mobile, also having worked at a rival school while Troy was in the ASUN. But what's it like being back here or seeing the university as it is now?
Yeah, you mentioned the time I was at Georgia State, and Troy was obviously in the league then, actually going all the way back to when it was called the Trans-America Athletic Conference, or the TAC as many people referred to it, and then evolving into the Atlantic Sun. But, and the time gap there between the last time I had been on campus prior to my interview was almost 10 years. And to see the growth with Troy Athletics, the university as a whole, and the facilities, I've been quite impressed. We certainly have work to do, but a great basis to build from, not only from a facility standpoint, but from a coaches and administration standpoint as well.
And you're coming from Ole Miss, and just talk about what your role was at Ole Miss.
Sure. I spent 9.5 years at Ole Miss, started there as the Associate AD for Finance. My background previous to getting directly into athletic administration some 15 years ago. I did spend some time as a CPA in public accounting. So I went there, and that role really expanded, and over the last 3.5 years, I had been the deputy AD, or the number 2 AD, person in administration. And people say, well, hey, you go from an SEC school to Troy, less resources in terms of the budget. But as I told people during my interview, and have told several folks since then, that is correct. But in the big scale of the SEC, Ole Miss is in the bottom 2 of 14 schools in terms of budget availability. So I really have, both at Ole Miss and previously the 6+ years I was at Georgia State, have worked with smaller budgets in competition against larger budgets and larger schools. Ole Miss's budget's roughly $60 million all in, and you've got Alabama and Florida and Tennessee. I think Auburn is above $100 million now too. So just because you have a smaller budget does not mean there aren't expectations of your sports to not just compete, but to win against those bigger schools. So I think those skills learned there will translate very nicely to Troy, because, yes, we do have to think outside the box in terms of growth of revenues.
Well, and does your background as a CPA and working in the financial segment, do you think that helps you with the way that college athletics has become such a big business?
I really do, and thinking back, it was, sometime in the winter of 1996 when a guy named Les Robinson, who at that time had just become, he had been the basketball coach at NC State. He followed up Jim Valvano and had migrated to the athletic director's position there, and who happened to be my college coach at the Citadel. He and I were visiting one day, and he said, John, you should really consider a career in athletic administration, because he said soon to be gone are going to be the days where old coaches migrate to being athletic directors, because it is way too complex of a business, so many things with contracts. And he said, your experience not only from the financial side, but having been a student athlete and contacts and relationships with so many people in the collegiate sports business, you should really consider it. And so literally I did a total career change, took a huge cut in pay, and then in 1997 went from being a chief financial officer at a very large company to being an assistant AD for finance at Georgia State. But it's a career move that I wouldn't trade for the world, and am very excited about what that's led me to today as the AD's job here at Troy.
Well, and something you talked about just a minute ago, talking about the difference between working at an SEC school and a Sun Belt school, may not quite be as different as people think, but there are some differences that you'll have to work with. At Ole Miss, you have the long-time traditions of having a big fan base, where at Troy, it's growing. I mean, how do you work to continue to grow on that fan base?
Sure. I think one of the big things, and I had a conversation yesterday with Dr. Hawkins about this, is one of the things that was implemented at Ole Miss, and this was only about 3 years ago, because again, you think SEC and 100,000 people at Bryant-Denny Stadium or at Neyland Stadium. Well, at Ole Miss, we averaged about 52 or 53, so it was smaller. But at the end of the day, whether you're at Ole Miss or Alabama or Troy, it's got to be about the fan experience and obviously the quality of your product on the field. But one of the things that was implemented at Ole Miss was a fan feedback, if you will, or to come back and rate what we did, send out to all your season ticket holders, do the survey. What did you like about what we did? What didn't you like? What would you like to see? And get the feedback from the fans to enhance the game day experience. Because really what we would like to do is to not make Troy football, and I'll use football as an example, but we want to spread this to all of our sports, but not make Troy football a 3 or 3.5 hour experience where you pull up, park, go in and watch the game and leave. We want it to not only be a full day experience, but hopefully a weekend experience for folks to come to Troy, which helps not only your football team, your entire athletic department, the university, but also the city of Troy and the surrounding area in terms of revenue generation and everything else. But getting the feedback from the fans to make it an enjoyable experience or a more enjoyable experience is very key. And obviously at the end of the day, winning has a whole lot to do with that. But we want to encompass that whole concept and again apply it to football, but we want to apply it to softball and baseball and tennis and everything else that we do.
I don't want to keep on comparing Ole Miss and Troy, but you kind of got the Grove atmosphere that you have at Ole Miss football games that you always hear so much about, kind of bringing that to Troy. Troy's got a great tailgating experience, but just trying to take it to the next level.
Sure. Again, it's about opportunities for folks to interact and to be a welcoming place to come. It's about customer service. We want to make sure that we find ways to allow people to come with great ease, whether it's traffic flow into the stadium, whether it's our ushers say, hello, welcome to Troy Athletics. We're so glad to have you today, to saying thank you on the way out the door, to the concessionaire folks being courteous and being helpful and being responsive. So there are so many little things that go into it that we will pay attention to detail and make sure that we enhance that game day experience for folks.
What other short-term goals and even long-term goals do you have for the athletics department?
Sure, we've got quite a list, and probably the two main areas that I'll talk about, that I'll focus on, are facilities and then elevating our standing. When I say our, the entire athletic department standing within the Bubas Cup, which is the overall sports standings for the Sun Belt, which unfortunately we've been in the lower tier the last couple of years. But one of the keys as I meet here over the next couple of weeks with our head coaches individually is hey, we're doing questionnaires for them. We want to know what the strengths of your program are, what the weaknesses, what opportunities you see, what are the threats. And at the end of the day, probably the biggest key question is, hey, tell me 3 to 4 things that you need for your program to consistently compete at the upper echelon of the Sun Belt Conference. Because if they are competing for the championship in our conference, then that's going to parlay itself into postseason NCAA competition, which we all want. We want all of our teams to be involved in. So that's very key, finding those missing pieces. And we are going to have expectations and accountability. Yes, it's going to be our administration's job to provide those resources, but hey, we're going to go out and do that, and we're going to have expectations for our coaches, and I think they're excited about that. The other key thing is facility improvements, with probably the marquee being, I can't tell you how many times I've met people and, one of the first things out of their mouth, when are we going to get started on that north end zone project, which is very important to us. Not so much today from the seating capacity standpoint, but obviously from football locker room to coaches' offices to meeting rooms to a whole plethora of things. And very soon on our plate are going to be a couple of brainstorming sessions to get all of the potential constituents together to say, hey, what all do we need to be included in this building? Do we need athletic administration in here? Do we need to have an external wing that has our fundraising and ticket sales and marketing folks all in there? Does it make sense to potentially move our weight room from where it is in the tower now to over there? The same with our sports medicine group. Because the last thing you want to do is rush into a facility like that and, let's say round figures, it's a $20 million facility, and to be in it for 6 months and say, we really, we forgot to do this or we forgot to do that. So I want to make sure that, because it's not a building for 3 or 5 or 10 years, this is going to be a 30-year plus building that needs to be state-of-the-art for as long as it can be. And obviously there is a seating component in there. Premium seating is what is going to foot part of the bill for that. And we do have a demand right now. All 29 of our suites are at capacity and sold out, so we do have some additional folks. So, being able to include some suites in there. We're not full in our current stadium club, but we do need to plan for growth in the future, so an area that could eventually be converted to club seating as well. So all of those components go in there. And that's not our only project, though. We've got several others. We've got some improvements at the tennis facility, looking to provide at least 2, if not more, courts as indoor courts to be able to have indoor practice and matches when it's raining. Softball improvements, our golf facility. Obviously, with the new Trojan Arena on board, we lost several holes of the on-campus facility, so to make them a very state-of-the-art and nice practice facility and driving range. So, we've got some things in all of our sports that are out there on the table. And really what that facilities parlays into, obviously you've got to have the funding to do that. So I will be hot and heavy on the road in terms of going to visit with folks and continuing our development efforts, as well as looking at some other revenue sources. We could talk forever about that, but looking at our contracts that generate revenue, whether it's our multimedia rights and sponsorships contract, our apparel and shoe contract, various things like that. So I've definitely got a plate full.
All right, well, we're running out of time, but we're going to end this with some questions maybe the fans want to get to know you a little bit better. Sure. We'll start that off with your favorite movie. Sure.
It is a sports movie, but it's not, it's not football or basketball. Field of Dreams, by far.
Oh, that's my favorite movie. Great movie. Favorite food?
Gumbo and fried crab claws. I can't narrow it to one, but I am a seafood lover.
Well, you're down from Mobile, so that's to be expected. Favorite music?
My music taste span the spectrum. Okay. I mean, it's everything from, if you had to put one, and this goes back to my Gulf Coast flavor, Buffett has to be up there. But I go from Buffett to George Strait to AC/DC to Journey, so you can, and anything in between.
Do you have to listen to something to get you in the mood for a game before a game, or do you have to worry about?
I like to pick up the tempo. I go back many years to my playing days, and it wasn't something mellow. It was I like to. I won't say I'll go as far as headbanging, but something to get me motivated.
Okay. What was the last book you read?
The last book I read was a book called The Power of Who by Bob Bodine, who happens to be a motivational speaker and an executive search guy. Great book. It takes a little different view of networking and how to reach your life goals. Okay. And not that you're going to have any of this anymore, but what do you like to do when you get some free time? Free time, I love fishing. The thing I will tell people is being closer to saltwater. I love saltwater fishing. There's nothing as exciting as hearing that reel sing out. But I I play at golf. I won't say I play golf. I hack a little bit. If I'm a 17, 18 handicap, I'm good in there. But and obviously family time. I have 2 young girls too. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 4-month-old. So spending family time is number 1 priority.
Well, we'd like to welcome them and you as well to the Trojan family, and looking forward to all that's in store. So thank you for joining us here today.
Great. Thank you.
Trojan Sports Now.